Good morning. Trish has first blood. Rock and roll. Oh, weird. It looks like the thumbnail didn't upload correctly. No, there it is. Huh. Anyway, good morning. I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. It is Firearms Friday, and let's go on with it. And good morning. Oh, look at that. I forgot to reset the camera after Cameron left yesterday. Let's see if I can get that back where it's supposed to be. Real quick there. Live is hard mode, guys. We had a little hiccup yesterday morning. So those of you that missed us yesterday, we did do a show, but there was the live stream broke when we first started, and I had to real quick run to the backup live stream, and we made do, because, we make it work, but live is hard mode. So, hey, good morning. It was Thanksgiving yesterday. I hope everybody had a good day. I sure as hell did. Right after the show yesterday morning, I hit the road and went down to the farm with the big family, and we had a couple of turkeys and a ham and a whole bunch of good sides. And Trish, I put that jalapeno salt on Ma's collard greens, and that was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. But it's Black Friday now. And let me tell you something. I avoid the Black Friday sales like the plague. Or more correctly, I don't go out to Black Friday. Where I'm more than happy to take advantage of Black Friday deals if there's something I'm looking for and I can save a few bucks shopping online, sure, but I ain't playing with the crowds. I ain't getting out there and fighting the traffic. Just not for me. Nope, not anymore. When I was much younger, I used to make it a point to go at midnight on Black Friday, go and hang out at like the Walmart or whatever. We'd take popcorn with us and stand around and watch the fights in the toy aisle. That was always fun. But yeah, I'm too old for that shit now. But if you do happen to have to go out on a Black Friday, remember, it is Friday. It is Firearms Friday. Don't get caught unprepared. Carry protection. Gird thyself against the ravages of an unkind world. It's dangerous out there. And frankly, saving $200 on a flat screen TV just isn't worth your trouble or your life. It's not. You either don't need that TV or you don't need that $200 that bad. That's really all there is to say about that, I guess. So, since yesterday was Thanksgiving, I don't see any reason to forgo being thankful for things until next Thanksgiving. There are things in this world that are still worth being thankful for. Not least of which are these two stories I'm about to share with you because it's Firearms Friday. I've only got a couple of DGUs this morning. Before we get to the DGUs, I wanted to share this major win. Maryland handgun licensure law is unconstitutional, U.S. court rules. A U.S. appeals court on Tuesday declared that Maryland's licensing requirements for people seeking to buy handguns were unconstitutional, citing a landmark U.S. Supreme Court case last year that expanded gun rights. Okay, I want to take a little bit of exception with that phrasing right there. It says the Supreme Court decision last year expanded gun rights. It did not. But let's not let ourselves get confused here. Shall not be infringed. So let me be very clear. Your right to keep and bear arms is unlimited. I am not making the claim that there are no laws which prevent you from keeping and bearing arms. But gun rights cannot be expanded. The fact is this. If you are carrying a firearm, are in possession of a firearm, or own a firearm in any capacity, and the law in any capacity suggests that you are wrong to do so, it is the law, in fact, which is wrong. We're learning that more and more. The courts and the people agree with that. Now, you can agree or disagree with what I'm saying. It's your right to be wrong. You have every right in the world to neglect your education and suffer in your innocence, in your ignorance. That's fine. But your inadequacy does not alter my rights and should not be tolerated as a bar to my freedom. We gave thanks yesterday for many, many things, not least of which, at least with our family, was our right to keep and carry, to keep and bear, and to maintain a well-regulated militia, which is to say, we had Thanksgiving dinner and then we went out to the back of the farm and shot off some guns in the woods. Now, we didn't burn off thousands and thousands of rounds. We spent a little time plinking with Sergeant Major's little .22 target pistol, and because I haven't taken the time, because I've been busy as a squirrel trying to shed a pineapple, I just haven't taken the time to go to the range for a while. And nearly a year now, I think. I pulled out my little EDC and squoze off a few of those chunky 357s because, well, it needed to happen. Feel a little better about it. Also, I've got this terrible tennis elbow. I was starting to get worried the recoil might be too much for me, but I'm not that old yet, thank gods. All right. So, the idea that a Supreme Court decision expanded gun rights, right? There's a lot of good here. But the fact that someone believes that this sentence is intelligible, that a U.S. Supreme Court decision last year expanded gun rights, no. What it did is the court correctly interpreted that your unlimited gun rights had been illegally curtailed by, let's face it, a violent, armed, hostile, rogue government. The existence of any gun law ever is an attempt by a government to do all of the things which were done by governments to begin with, which incited the United States of America to declare independence, draft a constitution, and ratify itself into existence against the will of armed, tyrannical, violent government organizations. Anybody who believes that the Supreme Court can expand your rights doesn't understand what rights are. That you have rights is utterly independent from the law. The law, with relation to your rights, can only rightly restrict the government from interfering with the exercise of your rights. So a 3-judge panel of the Richmond, Virginia-based 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals on a 2-1 vote blocked enforcement of a 2013 Maryland law that required people to undergo training and background checks before applying for licenses to buy handguns, saying it violated the right to keep and bear arms under the U.S. Constitution's Second Amendment. Now, this mentions that that the law required you to undergo training and background checks. What training? Right? There's so many problems with that. For one, any bar to your right to keep and bear arms is an infringement, an intolerable infringement of your rights. That is fact. That is why the word infringed was used. Right? They didn't say the government shall not prevent you from being able to hunt. No, the founders said there will never be a law which is tolerable by constitutional review which references firearms and the right to keep and bear them. Nothing can be in the law adjacent or even related to your right to keep and bear arms. The closest you could get to a constitutional right which mentions, a constitutionally tolerable law which mentions firearms would be like in a way the law has changed in Georgia a bit with the passage of constitutional carry in the state of Georgia. The way that law reads, it is now illegal for a police officer to ask you if you are carrying a firearm unless you are being arrested for a crime. Right? It used to be that a cop could ask you if you were carrying a firearm, and if you were, you had to present the license that allowed you to carry it concealed if you were in fact carrying it concealed. They are no longer allowed to ask you that question. That's part of the constitutional carry law, which is a step in the right direction. We've talked about the freezing constitutional carry, and it's all moving in the right direction, but a law that says constitutional carry is presumptive of the state's authority to issue you rights, which it does not have. Right? It has neither the authority to issue you rights, to grant you rights, or to restrict from you your rights. That is not an authority that we trust the state with. The only exception to that is under the 14th Amendment, we are tolerable. We have ratified the tolerance for the use of slavery as a punishment for crimes when convicted by a court of law. And frankly, I'm pretty comfortable with that. But once you've done your time, you've done your time. Give the man back his gun and his vote. Right? I mean, if a criminal is so heinously dangerous that he cannot be restored, then why should we suffer him to live? We have a death penalty. If your crime isn't that severe, then you should get your gun and your vote back. So, Supreme Court's 2022 ruling in a case called New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin, which we often refer to just as Bruin, required gun laws to be consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation in order to survive a Second Amendment challenge. Maryland has not shown that this regime is consistent with our nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation, U.S. Circuit Judge Julius Richardson, an appointee of Republican former President Donald Trump, wrote in the ruling. Richardson called the Maryland law an additional preliminary step that subjected law-abiding people to a 30-day waiting period before they could begin the usual process to acquire a firearm through a separate background check system. See, the background check system, you all know this. I oppose background checks categorically. I have absolutely no patience for the psychosis that is the background check for firearms ownership, because it's this simple. A background check will not stop a criminal from getting a firearm. The same as any other law enforcement action. A background check will only stop an otherwise law-abiding citizen who has a single blemish on his record from getting a firearm. A criminal with the sort of a background that you're hoping to catch with the background check, that you're ostensibly hoping to catch. Let's be clear on that too. I'll come back to that in a second. The sort of criminal, the sort of repeat offender career criminal that you want to disarm, and you want to disarm him because, like your cat, you cannot recognize that he's a monster, and so you would prefer to cut his fingers off than to actually execute him for his crimes. That criminal, that career criminal, he'll get a gun. If he wants a gun, he'll get it. He won't ever bother with a background check. He'll buy it from somebody on the street. He'll buy it from a friend, right? Or he'll pay somebody to go and pass a background check for him and hand him off the gun. He'll get his gun. Make no mistake. Bad people do bad things. The law prevents people like me from going out and doing bad things to bad people recreationally. The law protects criminals from citizens. It does not protect citizens from criminals. Winnebago v. DC, Castle Rock v. Gonzalez, or Gonzalez v. Castle Rock, right? The law is not even expected by the law to protect citizens from criminals. But it very effectively protects criminals from citizens. And that's the entire body of the law, not just the more particular gun-related laws that we're talking about this morning. Excuse me. The NRA backed the lawsuit that challenged the law and covered the legal costs of the litigation, an NRA spokesperson said. A spokesperson for Maryland Attorney General Andrew Brown, a Democrat who is defending the law, said his office was weighing options for next steps in this case. At issue was a handgun qualification licensing requirement adopted as part of Maryland's Firearms Safety Act of 2013, a broader gun control measure. See? A gun control measure. Prospective handgun buyers were required to submit fingerprints for a background investigation and take a 4-hour-long safety training course. Oh, you want to own the gun? We're going to need you on a list. You need me on a list with invasive personal identifying information? Purchase a handgun? Am I a sexual predator? Well, let me remind you, it wasn't that long ago that in California, the state government just published the list of everybody who had been registered as being a firearms owner in the state. And when I say publish the list, names and addresses. I didn't do it by accident. They want to treat the lefties, if you are a constitutional law-abiding citizen, they want to treat you like you are a child predator, like you're a sexual predator, like you're a dangerous reprobate. And more importantly, just like all cases of doxing, like we've talked about in the past with the Trayvon Martin Zimmerman case, when Spike Lee or Spike Jones, one of the Spikes, the Black Panther guy, published the information. Doxing is attempted murder, right? If a Democrat government agency publishes a list of identifying information, especially if it includes targeting information like a person's private address, the expectation, the objective is for their violent extremists to go to that location and do the worst things you can imagine violent monsters will do. Remember, we're talking about lefties in that case. We're talking about the sort of people that will set up an autonomous zone, will deny police officers access to their location through force of violence, firebomb any federal building, up to and including the White House. I mean, let's not forget, before January 6th was cool, BLM was firebombing and burning the guard post at the White House and the church across the street. You know, people don't talk about that shit, but there you go. Oh, January 6th was the worst thing that ever happened in America. You mean after BLM set fire to the White House? Because that happened in 2020. That happened in 2020, May 29th. They threw firebombs at the White House. So when the lefties, hey, we have to have background check on everybody. The objective is to create a registry so that you can be targeted for violence. And so, this is a big win. We can be thankful for this in Maryland. And then, hey, just the next day, let me switch that over to article view so it's easier to read. Voter-approved Oregon gun control law violates the state constitution, a judge rules. Now, this one's interesting. A voter-approved Oregon gun law. So this isn't just the state legislature being co-opted by the enemy left and trying to take away your firearms. This is a state with a very large blue cancer, Oregon. Remember, one of the biggest autonomous zones was in Portland, Oregon. There was massive looting and violence and riots in Portland. And as much as we say there are no blue states, only red states with blue cancers. Oregon is one where that cancer has metastasized dramatically. And so apparently the communists in Oregon voted for a gun control law, and the court struck it down. The law, one of the toughest in the nation, was among the first gun restrictions to be passed after a major U.S. Supreme Court ruling last year changed the guidance judges are expected to follow when considering Second Amendment cases. The decision was handed down by Circuit Court Judge Robert S. Ruscio, the presiding judge in Harney County in rural southeast Oregon. The law requires people to undergo a criminal background check and complete a gun safety training course in order to obtain a permit to buy a firearm. It also bans high-capacity magazines. Steve says, voted like 81 million people for Joe Biden. In all fairness, Uncle Steve, the concentration of blue idiots in Oregon may be high enough for them to legitimately make bad decisions and not just fabricate them onto the rest of us. Excuse me. The state trial stemmed from a lawsuit filed by gun owners claiming the law violated the right to bear arms under the Oregon Constitution. That's worth noting. The Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Every single state, this might be a special worth doing, going state by state. Every single state, I think everyone with the possible exception of Hawaii, but even California, has a state constitution in which there is a clause or an article that reaffirms the Second Amendment. Right? Every single one of them. Except for, like I said, except maybe Hawaii. But almost all the states, if not all of them, have a state constitution that either reaffirms, buttresses, or even in some cases expands on the Second Amendment. Like the Second Amendment is very clear, shall not be infringed. That means you can't have a gun registry, you can't restrict ownership, you can't restrict magazine capacity, you can't tell me what does and does not qualify legally as a firearm. You can't tell me that I can't saw off my shotguns if I want to. Right? I mean, the law says I can't. The law is wrong. But in the state of Georgia, for example, under our state constitution, they explicitly say that there cannot be a gun registry. If you are a politician in the state of Georgia, you're forbidden by the Georgia Constitution from attempting to create a firearms registry at any municipal level within the state, from the state itself all the way down to the smallest township. You cannot craft a gun registry in the state of Georgia. So we can be thankful for that. And they differ from state to state, but every state has some version of the Second Amendment as an article or section in its constitution. And that's awesome. That was a big step in the right direction right from the get-go. And so I think it's interesting then that Oregon, which is, as much as a state can be blue, Oregon is one of those. But the ruling here says that the ruling says that they can appeal the. I just passed it. I lost the spot. Law requires people to undergo criminal background check. Measure 114 has been tied up in state and federal court since it was narrowly approved by voters last November. State trial stemmed from a lawsuit. Okay, yeah. It violated the right to bear arms under the Oregon Constitution. They're not even making the claim on the Constitution. They're talking about their state constitution. The defendants included such Oregon officials as Democratic Governor Tina Kotek, Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum, and State Police Superintendent Casey Coding. They can appeal to the Oregon Court of Appeals, and the case could ultimately go to the Oregon Supreme Court. Rosenblum plans to appeal the ruling, her office said in an emailed statement. The Harney County judge's ruling is wrong, the statement said. Worse, it needlessly puts Oregonians' lives at risk. The state will file an appeal, and we believe we will prevail. That right there. It needlessly puts Oregonians' lives at risk. False. It's a lie, and you know it's a lie. Your life is not more at risk because people around you or you yourself are armed. Your life is most at risk when you lack the safety equipment to deal with the hazards around you, right? To say that disarming the people puts them less at risk, makes them safer, is the same as arguing, it'd be the same as when I was working at Kerr-McGee and we had the titanium tetrachloride tanks that would bust open and sublimate into gaseous hydrochloric acid. So we had to wear these gas masks, these rebreathers on our hip all the time as an emergency measure to hopefully get out with our lungs mostly intact. Even if it wasn't highly probable that we would escape with all our skin or eyeballs, we might be able to get away still breathing. This argument that it needlessly puts Oregonians at risk to disarm them, that is the same as saying you'll be safer without the gas mask when the cloud comes for you. No. I definitely want my rebreather. It may suck to live without skin, but I think dying sucks more. Personally, I'd rather not die. I like that, especially if I have no interest in vomiting out my own lungs. So yeah, I'll take the rebreather. Thank you. I will also keep my my EDC. It's just how it's going to be. So, all right, guys, I think we've pushed it. Hey, Lisa, that's a great question. Lisa, you know what? I was about to put a pin in it and throw you all the safety brief, but thank you, Lisa Howell, for asking the question. This may be a dumb question. It's not. Lisa, there are no stupid questions. There are only stupid people. But turns out you're not one of them. We can work with this. Wouldn't the old system of applying for and receiving a concealed permit count as a list? I know it wasn't published, but still. And see, that's the thing. Even if the list isn't published, I don't want anybody to have a list of firearms owner, least of all the government. I don't know if you caught it earlier, Lisa, but I talked about the situation that happened in California a few years ago. I mean, it happened in 2020. I'm pretty sure it was in 2020 when it went down. But California published a list of firearms license holders in the state. And that was a big scandal at the time, and it should be. But you're correct. The old system of applying for and receiving a concealed permit did create a list. Now, Georgia did not become a constitutional state by challenging that fact in court and having the existing law overturned on the basis that the existing law was unconstitutional, even though it was. Instead, they passed a new law which obviated the prior law and sort of reaffirmed the state's government's dedication to protecting the Second Amendment in theory. But no, that's not a stupid question at all. That is one of the best arguments against the use of background checks and the issuing of permits, right? I mean, the first and most important argument against all licensing is, screw you. You're not going to take my rights away from me at gunpoint just so you can sell them back to me. That's what licensing is you are using a gun and the threat of death to take rights away from me so that you can then sell them back to me. That's what your driver's license is. That's what a carry license is. That's what a license to practice medicine is. It is the theft of your right by force and violence, and then your rights being sold back to you at a premium. So no, that's not a dumb question at all, Lisa. It's a great question, and thank you for asking it. So with that, we've come to the end of the show. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I am thankful for my beautiful audience that joins me every morning, every weekday morning at 7:30 to have a cup of coffee, listen to some jokes, read the news. Hey, sometimes I get a little ranty and angry, and frankly, the tone of the show has been a little dark for a while since Dark Brandon got in office, and I'm trying to liven it up, lighten it up a bit as we go forward. But I'm very thankful for the audience that I have. There have been some big changes in my life, which are going to begin to reflect in the show sometime in the next several months. I'll start talking more and more about rolling out on what those changes are going to be and how things are going to be different. But we should be talking about new and improved studio space as part of that in the not too distant future. that timeline is still in flux, but we're moving that direction, and I'm thankful for the work that we're doing in that. I cannot wait to see how we develop that, and hopefully that'll grow this channel. And I would love if we could take this from being a hobby where I just have coffee with you beautiful friends of mine out there to being my full-time and only profession. There are some neat little tricks that I've got up my sleeve now that hopefully we can develop into some brilliant content in the not too distant future. And I thank you. I'm so thankful for all of you today and every day. Absolutely. Thank you. Now, it's Friday, and we have a tradition here on the show on Friday. It's a military tradition. The safety brief. This is Black Friday. And if there's anything we all know about Black Friday, is it's dangerous out there. So, if you must, don't do it. Stay home, order in, relax, eat leftovers, watch some TV, maybe do a little yard work. Have a great day and avoid people, because they're going to be out there. They're going to be crazy. They're going to be crazy. Y'all be safe. And if you just have to have the new big flat screen TV, I would say gird thyself against the ravages of an unfriendly world, but as much as this would not normally be my choice, I promise you can find it on Amazon and have it delivered to you at the same price that you could get it at the Target without having to stand in line for 5 hours and maybe get shot. I love you guys. Y'all be safe out there. Don't drive drink, don't fry bacon naked, and we will see you on Monday.